Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a journey that is, it's really stark. It's terrifying.
It is. It's an escape story, but it's not what you typically think of.
No, not at all. It starts rooted in this very immediate, chilling reality of domestic violence. But then it takes a turn that is just.
Completely unexpected.
Yeah.
It pivots into the realm of mythic retribution.
Exactly. Mythic retribution. And that turn is, as our sources show, absolutely necessary.
It's crucial. We've analyzed a whole stack of source material detailing the flight of a woman named Rosie from her husband, Norman Daniels. And what makes this deep dive so unsettling, I think, is the fundamental contradiction at its core. Norman is a police officer.
Right. The person you're supposed to run to for help.
Precisely. His badge, it's literally engraved with the words service, loyalty, community, and he weaponizes it. That's the key. For Rosie to truly escape a man who is protected by the very system designed to help her, well, she needed a mechanism for justice that operated entirely outside of reality's rules.
And the sources are so visceral on this. The badge is stamped onto her skin like a brand. It's this physical, sickening metaphor for how state authority can, shield this incredible personal depravity.
Yeah.
And so our sources, they track her psychological shift, right, from this controlled victim into a proactive survivor. And it all leads to this confrontation fueled by a mysterious painting.
A painting that serves as both a refuge and a terrifying catalyst.
Yeah, a catalyst is the perfect word.
So our goal today is to really understand the anatomy of this escape, because it's not just about changing your address, it's a profound uprooting, a transformation of identity.
Okay.
We need to track that sudden, visceral awakening of rage she feels, then the necessary, very practical steps she took to cut ties, and most importantly, why she had to step into a mythical space.
The maze of the Minotaur.
The maze of the Minotaur.
Yeah.
To achieve a permanent, undisputed freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this sequence of events then. We should start at the absolute breaking point. It all hinges on this shift in her perspective, which the sources call one drop of blood.
The sources establish Norman Daniels' inherent sadism right away. It's important to understand that his violence isn't just about losing his temper.
Yeah.
It's about control and, frankly, malice. We see this really early on in an incident where Rosie suffers a miscarriage.
And this is a moment of profound, personal loss for her. And Norman's reaction is just, it's so cold, so unsettling.
And intentionally cruel. The narrative recounts that he offers this dismissive, chilling kind of comfort. He just smiles at her and says, "You can have another one."
Like she dropped an ice cream cone.
Exactly. The sources call it a terrible absence of human empathy within him. And this event, it doesn't cause her to leave, not yet, but it confirms for her this psychological void at the center of their marriage.
And this sadism, it manifests physically in these highly symbolic ways.
The physical horrors are extremely specific, and they're all designed to assert his ownership over her.
Let's talk about the ring.
Yes. The police academy ring. He used that ring, that symbol of public trust, to literally mark her body.
The words service, loyalty, community. They would be stamped into the tender flesh of her stomach or printed on her breasts.
It's just...
And Rosie, internally, she compares these marks to the blue FDA stamp you saw on roasts of pork or cuts of steak.
That detail is so harrowing because it just strips her of her humanity. She's not a person, she's a piece of meat, literally branded by his professional authority. It's a signal that he owns her, and he believes the law protects him in that ownership.
And what's fascinating here, and what really speaks to the mechanism of his control, is that his abuse is so calculating, it's not just reactive.
No, Norman operates with what the source calls a sharply honed sense of self-preservation. After striking her, he'd immediately focus on superficial healing.
Right. He'd give her an ice pack to press between her eyes.
And why? Because he needed to stop the swelling and bleeding quickly.
It shows that he wasn't just abusing her, he was meticulously managing the public perception of his abuse.
That's it. His priority was always protecting his own badge. He knew, and the source is specific, that she couldn't hide a swollen nose with a pair of Oakleys the way you could hide a black eye.
So he was curating her injuries.
Yes, curating them, making sure they could be hidden easily. It just proves that for men like him, authority is the perfect shield for depravity.
So we have years of this calculated violence, but the final psychological breaking point is, it's remarkably small.
It's not a massive blow or a horrific fight that acts as the catalyst. It's a single small drop of blood on the sheet from a nosebleed he gave her.
That one drop, almost insignificant compared to everything else she'd endured, but it sparked something new in her.
An unaccustomed resentment throbbing in her head. And critically, there's a physical sensation tied to it, a pins and needles tingle.
The sources suggest this is the physical sensation of her finally waking up after years of being psychologically dormant.
And the profound shift happens in her internal dialogue. This is where she finally addresses the ultimate fear.
She says the common fear out loud first. If this goes on, he'll kill me.
Right. But the truly terrifying realization, the aha moment that demands action, comes back as an internal voice.
Except he might not. Have you thought of that? He might not.
And let's just stop there for a second. This is such a critical psychological insight.
It really is.
She realizes that she might just live forever in this state, perpetually walking on eggshells, eternally waiting for the next attack. The fear of death is suddenly replaced by the deeper, more terrifying fear of just enduring.
Enduring forever, that's the real horror.
Precisely. And that realization, the dread of that perpetual misery, is what transforms the tingling sensation into anger she was feeling, rage.
And that anger, that unaccustomed fury, that's the power she needs.
Yes. The imperative voice in her head shifts from paralyzing fear to a direct command. Get out of here right now, this very minute. Don't even take the time to run a comb through your hair. Just go.
And she has to act immediately, the source says, before she fell asleep again.
Right, before she retreats back into her coping mechanisms, into her old way of being.
And this new necessary rage is what's powerful enough to override her established survival mechanism, the voice she calls Mrs. Practical Sensible.
And Miss Practical Sensible is such a powerful character in her mind. It's the voice that's perfectly willing to be maimed or killed for the continued privilege of knowing where the tea bags were in the cupboard.
The comfort of the known.
However horrifying, it outweighs the terror of the unknown. But in that moment, she manages to clap a lid on that voice, demonstrating a strength she didn't even know she had.
And those initial steps are driven by pure panicked instinct.
Completely. As she's walking down the street, she thinks she sees Norman's red Sentra coming toward her.
And the sheer panic is so overwhelming, she thinks she's going to wet herself.
It's a moment of profound, undignified necessity. She's forced to squat behind this empty, hedge-protected bungalow.
And the details are so mundane. It's a place identified only by old newspapers and an Avon flyer left by some woman named Ann Casso a few days earlier.
It just grounds the escape in this messy, real, non-glamorous desperation.
But the truly critical practical thorough severance comes next.
The money.
The money. She finds a line of cash machines, and she taps out a withdrawal for $350.
Yes.
17 20s and a single 10.
And the exact amount is important. It's a pretty sizable chunk of their ready cash. She knows this act is theft. She knows he will be absolutely furious.
But the consequence is acceptable. She concludes that this act ensures there is no going back now. She's actively provoked his fury while securing her own immediate resources.
So that $350, it's not just cash.
No, it's a non-refundable price of her freedom.
And the guarantee of his relentless pursuit.
That decision to intentionally provoke him, it leads us right into the next phase. Finding refuge, creating a new identity in the world. Let's call this part 2, the kindness of strangers.
So Rosie arrives at this enormous, overwhelming bus terminal portside.
The sheer size of it, the chaos. The source says the terminal looks to her like fat chrome piglets nursing an exceedingly ugly mother.
What an image.
It terrifies her. Her world has been so small, defined by the confines of Norman's control. The tidal movements of all these people make her realize how much of the world she's only ever seen on television.
And this is where she makes her first definitive security move.
She throws the ATM card into a trash barrel.
It's an act of painful severance. She has to rationalize it to herself. Keeping it might tempt her to use it again, which would leave a traceable path.
And she knows Norman is brutal, yes. Stupid, no.
She cannot underestimate his intelligence or his resources. Throwing away that card is the final physical rejection of her old, traceable life.
And what's so grimly fascinating is that someone sees her do it.
Yes, a young man with a tiny Errol Flynn mustache who is running a 3-card Monte game nearby.
And he immediately starts rummaging in the trash barrel. He's hoping to get lucky. He thinks this ditzy lady maybe threw away a credit card.
So Rosie's profound, terrifying escape is happening against this backdrop of just petty urban crime. It really highlights how vulnerable she is.
So she buys her ticket to a large city in the Midwest, and she uses an alias.
Angela Flight, the name of her best friend from junior high school.
And the clerk doesn't even blink.
No. He sees her, this woman hiding behind dark glasses with just her purse, as no novelty at portside.
That anonymity, which she initially found so terrifying, becomes her first protective layer. She's just another woman fleeing a bad situation.
Which means she is both invisible and, for the moment, impossible to track.
On the bus, she experiences her first real sensation of psychological freedom.
She slips into this state neither one place nor the other, feeling completely untethered from the identity of Rose Daniels.
And she hears this fragment of a song floating through her mind. I'm really Rosie, and I'm Rosie real.
It's the emotional groundwork for the new identity she's trying to forge. The old Rose is gone, Rosie real is waiting to emerge.
When she finally arrives in the new city, though, the terminal is 4 times the size of Portside. She's completely overwhelmed.
She sees the homeless people sleeping there and finds this perverse, grim comfort in the knowledge that if all else fails, there would be a floor for her tomorrow night.
But the paranoia hits her immediately. Norman would check bus terminals first.
Of course he would.
Her initial confusion is palpable. She struggles with just the small logistics of this new life. She needs quarters for a bus, but she can't seem to manage it. She talks to a woman who thinks she's just asking for trouble.
And then comes the first true act of kindness of strangers.
She meets a man named Mr. Slowick. He's described as an old friend of the network that helps women like her.
Slowick is a vital, accidental connection. He tells her the reality of her situation. Women's hotels will drain her cash in a week.
But his essential message is one of necessary hope. He says if her husband beat her that badly, she has bettered your situation wherever you end up.
He's minimizing her current fear, not out of dismissal, but to maximize her resolve.
He refers her to Daughters and Sisters, D&S, a privately endowed halfway house run by a woman named Anna Stevenson.
And Anna is described as possessing an authoritative kindness. Rosie senses this slight, unconscious arrogance in her and thinks of the French phrase, l'état c'est moi, the state, it is me.
Which is, paradoxically, exactly what Rosie needs. Firm, benevolent control to replace the tyrannical control she just escaped.
Anna provides her with up to 8 weeks of shelter and, crucially, a path to self-sufficiency.
The job.
The job, an off-the-books job as a chambermaid at the Whitestone Hotel. But the requirement is strict.
Rosie must maintain absolute professionalism, not just for herself, but to protect the jobs of all the women who'll come after you.
Or don't spoil it for the next person.
Right. Her survival is immediately linked to the survival of the collective.
And the security protocol is absolute. Anna makes it clear that Rosie's new address, 897 Trenton Street, must remain a secret. This is how D&S has operated successfully for 20 years.
And Anna reinforces the finality of her separation from Norman. She says, the days when you were are over for you, Rosie.
A declaration of rebirth.
Yes, under these very strict security rules.
But as soon as Rosie achieves this fragile foothold of safety, we are immediately pulled back into the horrifying perspective of her pursuer.
The moment she severs the ties, Norman strengthens his resolve.
Which brings us to the section we're calling the manta ray, Norman's psychological pursuit.
Norman is deeply unsettled by her flight. His ego is wounded, not his heart.
The sources make that very clear. He tries to tell himself he's only upset about the stolen bank card, but his heart knows better. It's about the fact that he never had a clue that she would actually leave.
His initial reaction to put on his detective's hat was a failure.
Right. After getting a crucial lead from the ticket clerk, he realizes he has to change tactics. He has to put on her hat.
To slip back inside Rose's head.
It's a terrifying level of calculated pursuit. He calls this process trolling, which he actually equates with telepathy. He forces himself to simulate her journey precisely.
He rides the 11.05 bus. He selects her presumed seat halfway down on the left because she was left-handed.
His reasoning is that people choosing at random are often simply going in the direction of their dominant hands.
It's horrifyingly calculated. But I have to ask, is it truly empathy? Or is it just a specialized, high-level form of hunting?
It's high-level hunting, absolutely. It's about mastery and control, not understanding. He's trying to inhabit her fear so he can find her and eliminate her.
Not understand her fear.
No. To fully enter her mindset, he simulates her non-habits. He doesn't smoke at the rest stop. He forces himself to eat cold cereal at the cafeteria, despite his inner hatred for the homeless people he calls dog turds with legs.
He has to feel small and lost and terrified, just as she did, so he can predict her next move.
And the momentary discomfort he feels is nothing compared to the satisfaction of proving he can still control her, even from a distance.
And it's in his internal monologue during this pursuit that the sources really lay bare the full extent of Norman's depravity.
Oh, his thoughts are just saturated with extreme bigotry, violent fantasies. He uses shocking slurs against minorities. He thinks about kicking the heads of homeless people into steel chair legs.
And he actively restrains himself only to maintain his Rose Daniels persona, the disguise of the winged husband.
The search quickly turns violently real. Norman finds Ramon Sanders.
The young man with the Errol Flynn mustache who was looking for the ATM card.
And Norman uses this genially terrifying language with him, calling Ramon Angel Eyes, while referring to him internally as a fag and a dickweed.
It just confirms his deep-seated homophobia and misogyny.
And then he tortures him. He slowly tightens his hand until the tendons in his wrists stood out like the strings on a guitar just to get information about the card.
It's his signature move, the casual, calculated, physical assertion of dominance.
And this confrontation is crucial because it sets the context for his secret, more sinister history.
The case of Wendy Yarrow.
Yes, this is where the story shifts from domestic abuse to outright serial murder sanctioned by the badge.
The sources reveal that back in 1985, Wendy Yarrow, who Norman dismissively calls a slutty, high-yellow gal, was involved in a violent incident with Norman and his partner, Harley Bissington.
Norman claims she slashed him with a nail file, but her allegations were horrific.
They pushed her into a motel room, broke her nose, broke her fingers, fractured bones in her foot by stamping on it. She said the short one raped her, and Norman, the broad-shouldered one, bit her and, well, experienced erectile dysfunction before squirting all over my leg.
She filed a massive civil suit against Norman and the police department. She was threatening to expose them.
And then, right before Rosie's miscarriage, Wendy Yarrow was found murdered.
Stabbed over 100 times, her breasts hacked off. Norman dismissed it to Rosie as the work of some random sicko, a hazard of the job.
But Rosie, having lived with him, recognized the undeniable satisfaction in his voice.
She knew.
She knew, with certainty, what had happened. This context is absolutely vital because it establishes that Norman isn't just an abuser. The sources confirm he is a serial killer operating with the protection of the police force.
And the sheer terror of this man is amplified tenfold because the one place you're supposed to go for help, his colleagues, will just protect him.
So the breakthrough in his pursuit comes when he speaks again to the ticket clerk, Oliver Robbins.
Right, who initially couldn't remember the destination. Robbins calls back, and he recalls this odd request she made.
She didn't ask for a destination like Nashville or Lansing. She asked for the time she wanted to go. I want to buy a ticket on the 11:05 bus.
This tiny, almost insignificant detail, her focus on time over place, gives Norman the critical ability to track the destination to that larger Midwest city.
And his escalating rage is symbolized by this recurring, terrifying mental image.
The green ATM card from Merchants Bank, grown to an enormous size and floating in the blackness like a currency-colored dirigible.
This card represents all his terrors and compulsions. It's the physical, stolen object that embodies that ego wound and drives his need for absolute retribution.
We also learn about his habit of biting his fingers until the callus on his index finger breaks and bleeds.
An old childhood habit.
It shows the depth of his self-harming internal stress related to his suppressed rage. He is literally consuming himself in the pursuit of Rosie.
That terrifying, massive presence hanging over her new life brings us to the next section, Providence. This is where we see Rosie's tentative steps toward recovery and the mystical element that arrives as a necessary counterforce.
Rosie finds genuine physical relief and small pleasures in her new existence. She notes that 4 weeks without any hard shots to the kidneys or the pit of the stomach made a tremendous difference.
Her back, which used to hurt so badly that she struggled to work more than a dozen rooms as a chambermaid, is getting better.
The body is beginning to heal now that the abuse has stopped.
And she gains confidence. This lands her a job reading audiobooks for Robbie Lefferts, an opportunity she got after doing an impromptu street audition.
And the first book she is slated to read is, ironically, The Manta Ray.
A symbol of the dark presence of her husband still shadowing her, even in her creative work.
Her life takes a massive upward turn when she meets Bill Steiner, the jeweler.
She tries to trade her engagement ring, which he immediately identifies as a zirconia, not a real diamond, for $50.
And instead, she trades it for a painting.
And Bill is kind, handsome, and immediately infatuated. He asks difficult, meaningful questions.
He sees the truth of her situation without her having to spell it out. And in a critical moment, he validates the darkest, unspoken fear she had carried for years.
He voices the unarticulated and thus not quite formed question in Rosie's own mind. He says, What are the chances he might have killed the woman who was making all the trouble for him back in '85, that Wendy Yarrow?
That moment is an act of profound psychological healing for her.
It is. Bill validates her paranoia. He confirms that her deepest, most terrifying suspicion is not just sane, but likely true.
He also pays her this incredible compliment about her transformation, noting that when most women change their hair color, they look like women who have changed their hair color, but her new blonde hair looks like the way it really is.
He sees Rosie real.
He sees Rosie real.
And now we get to the central mystical element, the painting.
It's a work of art depicting a woman in this vibrant red-purple toga. The color is called rose madder, and she's standing on a hill above a ruined temple with a broad gold armlet on her right arm.
And the sticker on the frame reads, $75 R. That question mark, it implies the price is negotiable, or maybe.
Maybe the cost is much higher than money.
Exactly.
Rosie buys it, and the painting immediately begins to transform her reality. She realizes it's a Where's Waldo picture, not because things are hidden, but because the contents change.
At first, she sees one stone god. But then, on closer inspection, she notices a second, gazing sideways through the tall grass. Concealed, but suddenly visible.
She realizes there's more right in the picture now. The scene feels intensely real, acquiring a hallucinatory quality.
It suggests the painting is not static art. It's a window into a changing, active world, a place that's waiting for her. The name itself, Rose Madder, it feels like a mythological call connecting Rosie to this ancient concept of feminine power and retribution.
Her sense of safety, however, is short-lived.
Right. The DNS network is brutally breached when Anna reveals that Peter Slowick, the man who referred Rosie to them, has been murdered.
This immediately intensifies Rosie's anxiety. It confirms Norman has successfully tracked her to the city and has started eliminating anyone who helped her.
Subtle supernatural indicators begin to increase around her, too. Rosie moves into her own place on Trenton Street. She has a live phone jack, but no phone, because she passed on buying one to save $10.
Leaving her unable to dial 911 when she hears a knock. The irony is hideous.
And she finds 3 dead crickets in her second-floor room, a number she can't logically explain. It links to the loud cricket sounds she hears in her sleep from the nearby park.
It suggests the natural world is acting strangely around her. Or maybe the boundary between her world and the mythic world of the painting is thinning.
This section also provides a deep psychological insight into the nature of her trauma. Rosie reflects on Norman's just because treats.
Those occasional unpredictable moments where he would bring her roses or take her out to dinner for no reason.
And she realizes these moments of kindness were more terrifying than his predictable rage.
Because they were arbitrary and unpredictable, they fed into the terrifying underlying idea that the way he treated her, the most basic premise of his life, was perfectly okay, perfectly normal.
If he was kind randomly, it meant the violence was also random, arbitrary, and therefore unpreventable.
The kindness was simply a tool of control, used to reset the cycle of abuse.
So she's achieving real-world independence, a job, a room, a relationship, but the forces of chaos, symbolized by Norman, are closing in.
Forcing her to confront the mystical transformation represented by the Rose Madder painting. The mythic system of justice is preparing to intervene because the real-world system failed her completely.
Which leads us directly into the explosive and horrific climax. Viva la boule, retribution, and resolution.
Norman's pursuit now accelerates into full-blown, calculated horror. And it's driven by a psychological breakdown.
And by these specialized headaches he calls his specials, the ones that only subside with violence.
He targets the Whitestone Hotel and gets a crucial lead from one of the chambermaids, Pam Haverford.
Pam, who he describes cruelly in his monologue as the blondie with the big eyes and cute little ass, had mentioned missing the Daughters and Sisters concert because she needed the extra hours.
Norman confronts Cam in the laundry room. He uses a calculated deception, making her believe he and his bull mask ham puppet, Ferd the Fag Bull, are just there to talk.
When she fails to give him the address he wants right away, he grabs her face by the cheeks and twists.
The sources describe a horrifying sound, the sound of someone stamping on a cedar shingle. He kills her instantly, muttering that she put her eye out on a coat hook.
We have to stop and recognize the horror of that moment. He commits premeditated murder in a laundry room to prevent a witness from slowing him down.
It confirms his identity as a depraved predator who will sacrifice anyone, even random strangers, to regain control over Rosie.
Driven by his special headache, he then infiltrates the DNS swing into Summer Picnic.
He uses a stolen wheelchair and adopts the persona of Hump Peterson, an atoning army vet who was paralyzed from the waist down. He knows this persona, the wounded veteran seeking redemption, will resonate powerfully with women who value atonement and change.
He quickly finds and attacks Cynthia, a DNS resident, breaks her nose to force her to tell on Rosie's location.
But his attack triggers the intervention of Gert Kinshaw.
The towering, powerful self-defense instructor, described as a woman the size of the planet Jupiter, 6'1" with soft shoulders and hard biceps.
Gert engages Norman in a physical confrontation. She ignores his savage taunts, Gert, Balbert.
And her method of subduing him is one of profound humiliation.
She gets on top of him and forces him to endure the painful humiliation of urinating on his face. She calls it a little message from her kidneys, insisting that they must show the skunk that we can't be intimidated.
It's the ultimate symbolic rejection of his dominance.
Humiliated and in pain, Norman escapes, his mind fracturing. He finds and steals a papier-mâché bull mask, Ferdinand the Bull, with flowers on its horns from a child.
He starts using this mask as a psychological crutch, talking to it, Viva the Bull, even though it stinks of rubber and the child's sweaty hair, and soon, Gertie's urine.
The mask is his new, monstrous identity.
Norman's final steps in the real world involve tracking Rosie's address. He finds mail in Anna Stevenson's unlocked office basket addressed to McClendon, Trenton Street.
He drives to Anna's home. Wearing the bull mask, he finds her in her study. Anna screams. She recognizes him even through the crude papier-mâché.
And Norman, in this deep, violent meditation, uses the same nursery rhyme taunt he used on Gertie. Anna, Anna Pope Anna.
Before murdering her and sweeping the door shut, plunging the room into total darkness, the police officer has become the masked killer, eliminating the head of the very organization built to protect women from him.
He then tracks Rosie and Bill back to 897 Trenton Street. The ultimate confrontation takes place in the dark hallway.
Bill is immediately choked against the wall, and Rosie's fear in that final moment is suddenly replaced by a pure and untinctured fury.
The necessary rage, fully activated, she manages to get Bill up the stairs.
Norman smashes through the stairgate, tears the bull mask over his face, and fires shots through the shower curtain, thinking they're hiding there. As he lunges toward them, Rosie desperately uses the square-headed key on the lock.
But instead of finding the lock, she finds the painting.
The closet door opens directly into the vibrant, impossible landscape of the Rose Madder painting. It's a wide-open window to the mythic realm.
Rosie pulls Bill through, saving his life. Norman follows, stepping down onto grass and a fragrant breeze.
But the transition is a physical horror for him. The stolen bull mask immediately begins to fuse to his head. He tries to tear it off, but realizes it seemed to be his face.
His vision narrows to one eye hole, darkening his perception. The transformation into the mythic monster, the bull, the minotaur, is complete.
Inside this alternate world, Rosie instantly sheds her real-world clothes for the chitin-like garment of the woman in the painting.
And Dorcas, the dark-skinned woman she previously misidentified as Wendy Yarrow, appears.
Dorcas, wearing a plain gown and looking anxious, confirms Rosie's destiny. She had previously advised Rosie that the bull, which she names Aranez, would smell her and come running.
And we should probably clarify those mythic terms for our listener. Dorcas is essentially linking Norman to the Minotaur, the monstrous bull-headed creature trapped in the labyrinth.
And Aranez is a Greek term for the Furies, the chthonic goddesses of vengeance. So Rosie isn't just fighting her husband anymore, she is fighting a primal embodiment of violence that demands retribution.
And Rosie confronts him in this central clearing near a tree, which she identifies as the Tree of Death, whose fruit smells like the water in the stream.
She finds the courage required for this mythic confrontation and declares her new true identity in a musical and savage voice.
I'm Rosie, Rosie real. But you're not real anymore, Norman. I'm divorced of you.
She calls him out with those ancient words. Aranez from the maze, Hexi Taurus, behold the bull. She's naming him the mythological monster he has become.
Severing their earthly bond and demanding mythic justice.
Norman, unable to remove his fused mask, unable to comprehend this magical reality, tries to charge. Rosie lures him deeper into the maze beneath the temple.
The twisting confusion of right-angled turns and blind alleys. A labyrinth.
And she leaves him trapped there, in a place that feels weirdly like home to him. Maybe because the temple contains these carvings of violence and degradation. One is a picture of a woman performing fellatio on a man with hooves who looks exactly like Norman's old partner.
He's left chasing a thrown rock, grunting thickly in his throat, galloping away into the permanent nightmare of the maze.
Before Rosie returns, Dorcas, who is holding a baby Rosie rescued from the center of the maze, gives Rosie a tiny ceramic bottle. It's sealed with a cork.
It contains a single drop of dangerous liquid, and Dorcas emphasizes one drop for him after.
Rosie nods. She understands that this is woman's business, and she must keep it secret from Bill. This is the price of passage and the promise of future protection.
So Rosie returns to her apartment. The tenant, Norman Schott, is screaming down the hall. Bill is desperate to call the police.
And Rosie, seeing Bill struggling and fearing Norman's poisoning influence, the source notes that Rose Madder repaid him for his kindness. She retrieves the tiny ceramic bottle.
She carefully tips it over, a bottle of Pepsi Bill is about to drink, and allows a single drop fall from the one to the other.
It's a profound, necessary prophylactic measure. She protects the man she loves from the residual effects of the other world, ensuring he remains untouched by the violence required for her freedom.
She confirms Norman's disappearance to Lieutenant Hale, saying she doesn't know where he went, but adds, "Good luck, Lieutenant. I expect it's hot and the air conditioning's broken."
Knowing he is trapped in that dark, dry, suffocating labyrinth forever.
And she then finds the physical trace of her journey, a scrap of her cheap cotton nightgown folded over like a packet.
And inside are the last 3 pomegranate seeds, the fruit of the tree of death, which she had unknowingly picked up in the other world.
The mythic power is not entirely erased. It's folded up and kept close.
And the sources follow her into later life. Rosie marries Bill, becoming Rosie Steiner.
But the narrative makes it very clear that the rage she needed for survival does not simply dissipate.
No, her residual rage manifests in these vivid daydreams.
One horrifying scenario describes her slamming her audiobook colleague Rhoda's face into a control board, tearing her throat open, and feeling the urge to bathe in the hot spew of blood, thinking, "I am repaying."
She has gained a deep, innate capacity for violence, a primal power symbolized by the Rose Madder journey, and she must actively fight against it every single day.
Years later, she plants the 3 pomegranate seeds in a clearing that never changes, a spot that has its own fixed reality.
And as she plants them, she sings that Carole King Marie Sendak song fragment, "I'm really Rosie, I'm a great big deal."
She is acknowledging her past and confirming her new, powerful identity.
And now she channels her residual violent urges into physical activity, specifically batting cages, hitting line drives with an unearthly cry.
And critically, she is consciously struggling to remember the tree to help her keep my temper. Her survival is not a neat Hollywood resolution. It's an ongoing conscious battle to ensure that the rage she needed to survive does not ultimately consume the new life she built. What an incredible synthesis of reality and myth, trauma and transformation. Rosie's escape, it wasn't just a physical journey, it was a complete uprooting and restructuring of her identity.
The sources show us the brutal calculus of a controlled life, the casual horrors inflicted by Norman, and the terrifying end of those who tried to help her, like Pam and Anna.
The most complex takeaway here, I think, is the nature of Rosie's survival. She achieved real-world independence, a job, friends, a marriage, but she retained this primal, supernatural aspect of her identity, crystallized in that phrase, "I repay."
Symbolized by the toxic seeds she planted. She fought the violence of a man who was outside the law with a mythic violence that was outside of reality, and now she has to manage the fallout from that.
Her final struggle is the greatest, battling the residual violent urges by focusing on controlling her temper and remembering the cost of that primal power.
She rejected Norman's premise that the way he treated her was perfectly okay, perfectly normal, and she won. But she now lives with a new self-defensive capacity for violence.
So for you, listening at home, consider this. Once you have confronted and vanquished the evil that held you captive, it's the greatest challenge simply to ensure that the necessary power you use to survive does not ultimately consume the new, free life you fought so hard to build.
Rosie's story suggests that the final act of freedom is not the escape itself, but the conscious daily struggle for self-control.